Magic Round, a great way to spice things up when you're watching these games is to play fantasy and play Draft Stars. So we're going to kick it off with our Raiders and Dogs game. And hopefully it actually is a bit of a tight one because it could be a bit of a kind of game to start off Magic Round. But in the outside backs here, Matt Tomoko has been incredible. And he's one of those guys that you need to look at selecting in your squads. Jacob Carraz, he's actually going to be out, which is a little bit annoying. So one of the young fellas actually comes in, and Blake Wilson is his name. So he's in that 23 jersey there, and he'll be at 9k and come onto that wing. So up to you if you want to select him in that position and go for that little bit of a risk, or you go for guys like Hayes Perham, who has been scoring really well of recent time. Really a couple of 30s there isn't too bad, 11,000, and he has that upside in the 40s and 50s. But the guy that has been absolutely killing it as well is getting a few tries, but without scoring super well in Draft Stars is Jake Avrillo at 67 last week, but scored a double the week before for a 33. So up to you on this one. It's guys like Tomoko and Chris that have been the better kind of scorers there. But if you have to go lower, then maybe go for a Perham, a Alamotti, or a Blakey Wilson there. In the halves and the hookers, then, Matty Burton is going to be pretty close to your guy. Jamal Fox has been scoring really well of recent time too. And the big thing with him is actually the kick meters has been up. The first few games of the year, they were pretty low, and he's increased that from here. So either way is going to be fine on that one. And the other interesting one is if Carl Oluwapu actually starts, I would probably select him at 9k. He had Reynolds start there last week, and he got 24, so he spent a little bit of time on that in that 6th position, and then spending a little bit of time through the middle as well. If you go to the forwards, it still is all in on Corey Horsburgh with those big minutes that he's been displaying over the last few weeks. Get him in your side. Corey Riddell scored well again with the 46. It did involve a little try off a kick, and that was really, really good. We spoke about Josh Papali'i. He has a all-star buy last week, and he was like 9,900. It was a ridiculous little misstep, I think, from Draft Stars, and that worked out great if you selected him with a 61. He's up to 14.5k now, and I'm not sure if you can select him in this one, but completely up to you. If you want to still go that way, that's really all you can select, I think, in these forwards position. You got King, who's like 50-50 to come back, so don't select him. Hudson Young's been pretty solid as well. So if you're going between Preston, Young, and Tarps, I would probably go for Young in that one. Okay, let's go to the next game, and it's going to be an interesting one. I feel like the Broncos are going to come out and win this one with the Manly boys missing a few troops. Jay Trbojevic is out, which hurts. Tom does come back, so hopefully he is actually fit and firing, because if so, him and Ruben Garrick are going to be decent selections. They've got Talatau Gola there returning as well, but I don't know how much he improves the outcome of this game. Really, in these outside backs, it's Farnworth that's been doing all the damage of recent time, and Walshy has been the one to miss out. So if you think the Broncos can win, I think Farnworth is your guy in that one. And the next section we've got, obviously DCE has been dominant, averaging 78 over the last 3, 64 for Reynolds. So that 4k extra that you need to spend, it might be worth just sticking with Reynolds in that one. But it is one of those two you have to select in this game. In the forwards, you've either got Payne Haas is back, and I think he's going to be fit and firing given he had the week off, which is great news. Carrigan, I expect probably a 48 or 50, something like that this week, and not an 80-minute effort. He played 80 last week and scored well, obviously at 55, but with less minutes, I expect probably just under 50 in that one. So Payne Haas is the guy to select. Olukwatu had a great game, but I think he's the one to leave out and go for Payne up top. And then Kepi gets the start, which is great news. Him and Paseka are the guys you want to be looking at. Obviously have been scoring really well. And, Kepi now getting the minutes. Paseka, I think he'll get a couple extra as well, and has hit, 50 and above the last 2 games. And he's at a nice price, just under 16k. So that's that game there. They're real kind of the best options, I'd say, in that section there. None of the cheap guys I'll be looking at in that one. Let's go to Warriors and Panthers up next. And really, can they improve? Because they haven't been very good, the Panthers. So I've been keep telling you to pick the outside backs for these guys, and they're playing okay without being great. And Stephen Crichton's got a 71 and a 40. I think you can select him again. Taruva hasn't been getting the amount of runs and stuff that you've been needing him to get of recent times. So really, it's Edwards up top. Chance on his return, I think, is a great selection, as well as Stephen Crichton. So they're the 3 I'd be looking at in this one, with Watini Zalesniak moving away from that one position where he was a solid pick last week. In this section, halves hookers, we've got Cleary, obviously still scoring okay. 67 is the average there of the last 3, and really he should be doing better than that if he was getting goal kicking as well. So either way with that one, if you have the extra 4K, go to Cleary. If you don't, Johnson's going to be good. And then obviously Mitch Kenny is up at an okay price, but still continuing to score okay. And then you have, really, it's Wade Egan up top at 14.6, who came back with another 54. And really, apart from the game he got injured, he's been getting 50 plus. So Wade Egan, I think I'd select over Mitch Kenny. I'd almost select him over Johnson in this one, as much as he's been really solid. If you can get close to a 50 in this position, maybe he goes in your flex, but and you want to pick Cleary or Johnson as well. But when you look at the forwards, obviously Isaiah Yeo is the main man in this one. Tohu Harris most likely back, and if he isn't, and Curran starts, you would be picking Josh Curran at 13k in this one. But really, like, can you pick Tohu at 16.6 in his return game when his knee's a bit stuffed up? I don't think so, really. So it's an interesting one. Scott Sorensen's been scoring really solidly. You've got Murata Niokore in that position as well, both doing good. You had Bunty Afoa with the lower one last week. I think he can go back to a better one, but with Tohu back, it's a little bit annoying. Tom Ale had a great score again on the weekend, back up to a 40. So out of the last 4, he's had 3 really good games. So I think you can safely select him now and sort of at worst get you a 25-30. Even with Tohu back, I still think in the minutes that he's getting, he's just providing really good impact, which is great. Sharks and the Dolphins, let's go to those outside backs. And I think Ronaldo is pretty close to a must-have in this one if you're looking at anyone on the Shark side, or Talakai. They're your two, and obviously Talakai had a nice score last week, the 67, 31 in amongst that, whereas Ronaldo, when he scores a try, he's getting that 50 plus. So either one of those guys, if you have the less amount of money, then Talakai's your guy, and obviously Will Kennedy's been solid as well. But obviously on the other side of the ball, we've got the Dolphins guys, and Ewan Aiken and Asako have been really solid. Aiken being better of recent time, Asako being great across the year. But I really think in this one, the Sharks are playing too good for these outside backs to do great. So I think Sharkies all the way in this one. And obviously Nico Hines then pretty well becomes a must-have, I think. At 27,000, if you're going for him, you can't select any of those top Dolphins guys. And it's Will Kennedy, potentially like Sione Katoa as well, who's averaging 39 to get Nico Hines in your side. That's the only option in that middle section there. If you're going to the forwards, obviously guys like Nikora and Wilton, been scoring the odd try of recent time. They've been good. I wouldn't be selecting McInnes. Finucane could come back and play big minutes, so he's a potential option. You've got Jesse Roberts actually playing, of recent time, pretty big minutes and has 2 games over 50 to show his class there. You've obviously got Oregon Kafusi's been scoring great, and I think he's a must at 11,000. And then no one really in the lower sort of section here that you can kind of confidently bank on there. Connolly Lemuelu had 2 tries last week and been scored amazingly. I don't know if he's going to do that week in, week out. So it could be a mixture of Bromwich, Hunt, Kafusi in this one, with Hunt starting would be the play, just so you can get Hines. And if you aren't going to get Hines, you can obviously go up to a few of those Nikoras and guys like that, which is good. Let's go Storm Bunnies. And in the outside backs there, we've got Munster out of there. Latrell's the guy. Latrell, Nick Meaney, lock him in. That's all you can really say. If you want to drop down from Latrell, then Campbell Graham's going to be a play. I think it'll be a fairly close game in this one. Johnson probably due a try, so he could be a solid one, but I really think it's just those 2 up top that you can really go for. Isaiah Tass, if you wanted to go a little bit lighter and go like Meaney and Tass, he's been solid over the last 2 weeks. For 35, he's lowest in the last 3, 41 and a 48. In the halves hookers, I think that Munster's probably the play. A little bit more expensive than Grant, but he's been doing really, really well. Ilias as well continues to be solid. Last week wasn't as good, 25, but before that, big on the kick meters and getting the odd try assist as well. Without Kolomatangi, I think it makes it harder for him, so maybe just fade him and go to one of the top guys, and that makes it then hard to spend up in the forwards position here. And really, guys that you probably should be looking at, Trent Leoro will come back after their bye and score really well. Jacob Host will be okay, probably get you a 30-ish. G-Cam will be solid as well. He had his lower one of the year, just the one recently gone. Aaron Penne, coming off a 30 last game. I think he can do a good job at 9k, and you probably have to get him in your side. The Tigers and the Dragons, it's going to be a really close one, I think, and there's a lot of shake-ups in the Dragon side. Let's go straight to the halves hookers, and there's a high chance, actually, that Ben Hunt plays 9 this week. And if that's the case, then Jaden Sullivan becomes pretty interesting in the starting role at 7. I think you'll be able to score well, and you probably slot him to your side as well as Ben Hunt, and you probably avoid everyone else. Luke Brooks could be a solid one. He scored 50 last week, and he's only 13k, so a mixture of those three is going to work out great for you, I think. And in the outside backs, Michaela Ravalawa has been doing really, really well when he's playing. He's finally back into this team and has been scoring well, as I said, in those games, averaging 45 over his last three, 47 for the year. So he'd be the guy that I'd slot back into your side. I think Sloan will be solid. He's actually up a little bit in price, surprisingly. So that's that there. Junior Tupou coming off a couple of low ones for him. I think you just avoid at this point. Stafford Toa has been amazing, averaging 52. So get Stafford in your side. That's 3 in a row where he's been really solid. So there's actually a lot of options here in the outside backs, and potentially you use one of these guys as a flex as well, just so you can get another cheap guy, because Jareem Bull has been really solid. 32.7, 34.5 in his couple of games. You've got Max Fine, you've got Tommy Talau back. There's so many options there. So I think they could be going an extra one in the flex. Potentially, I think the outside backs are going to be scoring pretty well in this one with a semi-open affair, maybe like a 24 to 20 type of game in this one. We spoke about the halves hookers, and in the forwards, Jack Bird moves back to 13. That's been great. DeBellin was the dominant force last week at 75. I doubt he gets 80 minutes, but I still think he'll score great. So if you can't spend up on Bird, who didn't score that well last week, then I'd say maybe DeBellin or Blake Laurie could be the play. And if you want to go down lower, Alex Trial's been actually pretty good of recent time. 2 good ones in a row, mixed with a couple of 30s with lower minutes. So when he does get the bigger minutes, he's been good. And I suspect he gets that again. So could be a solid one in your side. And obviously Billy Burns gets the start. If it stays that way, guys, I'd select him in your team. He should be able to score pretty well. Somewhere in the 30s should be pretty safe for him. Maybe that 55 minutes with Murdoch Vasila coming on for 25-30, I think would be how that plays out with Billy there. Let's move to the last 2 games. And Roosters v Cows. It's going to be an interesting one. My Cows there, I think they're going to get absolutely hammered. Drinkwater been scoring better of recent time. Joseph Suoli'i had a solid one as well, 36. But I think you avoid those guys. This is a game where really you've got to lock in and load on Tedesco, I think. I think he can do really well. Potentially Drinkwater or Felt. If the Cowboys are going to score, it should be through the right side with Kyle. Yeah, that's probably how you want to play this one. Holmes didn't have a great one last week. And if they get smashed again, I think he's going to miss out, unfortunately. In the half hookers, Manu the must-have, obviously. And then lower from there, if Chad Townsend is out, I think Dearden becomes really important. He's under 13k, and he will kick a lot more than he does in general and score great last week. So that's that. In the forwards, what you're looking at here is the Butcher Boys. So can Nat and Egan play big minutes again? They're both obviously priced accordingly now. So if you don't want to spend up on them, who, 2 guys that could score really well, Cotter's a little bit of a worry with him playing less minutes last week. You need to go down lower. Hylam Lukey, I think, is a must-have. You just hope that he doesn't get injured. But if he doesn't, then at 10,500 is just a ridiculously cheap price for him. And no one else really lower than that. Obviously, Jasewski's been okay. 35 and 35 since he's been starting. So they're the 2 guys you can go for cheap. So you can spend up a lot more elsewhere. And then Titans and Eels will round things out. And in the outside backs there, Penasini is your top guy, along with Campbell. And that makes complete sense. Campbell going to be playing the 1. I'm just worried how he's going to be able to penetrate the Eels' defense, because last week they were really, really good Eels, and can they back that up is going to be the question. If they can, I think Gutho, obviously played really well last week and went massive for 3 tries, but apart from that 30 the week before, he's been pretty consistent in the 40s, and if you can get that from a 13k guy week in, week out, you're very, very happy. So it's a mixture of Gutho and then Penasini or Campbell. I think you need to play this one here. And then we're moving to the halves hookers, and Tanner Boyd's just been dominant the last bunch of weeks, guys. 60 again from him. I think he's a really solid one, but obviously pretty well priced up. And Brown and Moses had crackers last week. Can they back that up and do it again? A mixture of those 3 is going to be great. I wouldn't go anywhere else in that section. For the forwards, Fafita I still think is a must-have, guys. I think he'll be able to score really well in this one. You've got Hopgood, who played big minutes last week, and Madison returns as well. The interesting thing with Maddo is he's now priced under what Hopgood is, and I think he can provide a lot more than what Hopgood can on a regular basis. So Madison over Hopgood in this one. And then if you're looking down the line, you've got Widomu Greg there at 10,000. He picked up a 42 last week, and if he can do that anywhere near that in terms of minutes, I think he can be really solid. If you need someone at that awkward price again, and you've got guys like Isaac Liu with a 31 last week, 58 the week before with a try, probably not going to happen. Junior Barlow there with 60, so he really stepped up in absence of RCG and obviously Maddo. So just take all that with a grain of salt that Maddo is out and RCG. So do you think that they're all going to be able to continue doing and providing that, what they have and did last week? Up to you. I wish you all the best of luck for Magic Round, guys, and make sure you only gamble with money that you can afford to lose and have fun with.